right, you guys, we are live. Welcome back to our daily live feed. As always, we'll wait for you guys to get logged on. But if you would like to work with me in the meantime, you can go to suitsandposing.com. We do hair, makeup, suits and posing, all the fun stuff when it comes to competing. Welcome back to BSPN night. We always do these wrap-ups on Mondays after a show. And I'm also going to talk about something specific with the judging of this particular show. Actually, a couple of things with the judging of this show. So tonight we are going to review the results from the Mile High Pro this past weekend, Bikini, Open Bikini. They did not have a live feed, but Fitbody Fusion did go live. So if you'd like to see the live feed, they do have it up on their Instagram, their IGTV. It is up on there, so you can go check that out and kind of watch it. Based on what we're going to talk about tonight, you may want to go do that because there is a couple of things I'm going to point out in particular about the live feed. Now, the live feed was pretty decent for it being a, an Instagram iPhone kind of live feed, you know what I mean? And there was a few things that happened in that particular live stream that I wasn't sure about until I went and watched the photos, and then I kind of confirmed a couple of things as far as how these points kind of broke down for your top three, that kind of thing. So we'll get into that. I will say that the pictures for the comparisons on NPCNewsOnline are not the highest resolution, so it's kind of hard to see some stuff sometimes when you're actually looking at the comparison shots on NPCNewsOnline. Now, their individuals are pretty good, but if you want to get a better idea of what they looked like next to each other as they were moving, you might want to go watch that live feed that was up on that IGTV, because it's not the best quality. Even when we get to the top three, all of the comparison pictures are pretty blurry. When you kind of expand that out and you go into like the top six, things like that, they're very blurry. It's hard to see anything. So yeah, the pics are not good. They're not good. So yeah, unfortunately, can't see a whole lot from the comparison photos. But I was able to confirm a few things that we're going to talk about once we get up into that top three. So anyways, let's start off with our first call out. Actually, let me pull up who I had. So my thoughts for first call out, my predictions were Eli, Alyssa, Ashley, Jimmy, Shelby, and Christina H, which was Christina Heath. So the only one that I got wrong was Christina. Christina ended up in that second call out. And Corey Hagman ended up in that first call out. And this is actually Corey's pro debut. So that's pretty awesome. She was fighting for that top spot at this particular show. She had just won the overall at Junior USA's, came out of that, came into this show, and she almost won it. So that's pretty awesome to see that happen. Doesn't happen very often. We saw a few of those things happen over the last couple of years. Like, Raja came out and won her pro debut. It does happen, but it's very, very rare when it happens. So it was actually really cool to be able to see that happen for her. In my opinion, I felt like second is where she should have been. I actually had a different winner than who won personally, but we'll get into that again once we get up into that top three. Ashley Kaltwasser did win this one. I think this makes her 26th win, I believe. Oh, and before I go much further on this, I just wanted to point out I am wearing a shirt from one of the shows that I competed in 2010. So your girl is old in this sport. This is an old shirt. This wasn't even the first year that I competed either. So I just thought that this was kind of fun. I wanted to showcase the Knoxville Classic from 2010. Over 10 years ago. Yeah, still got my shirt. So anyways, let's go into that top call out here. I was happy to see Alyssa in this particular call out in that sixth place spot, and happy to see we got some good pictures of her this time because the last show that she was in, I think she took, was it third that she took at the United Champions, and her pictures, they didn't even have back shot of her, so I couldn't really give any critiques on her or anything like that. At least this time we've got some front and back shots of her that are good, so that's a good thing. It does look like she filled out a bit. One of the things I noticed from earlier in the season is she was a little bit too hard, a little bit too lean. She did fill out for this show, which is good. She needed to do that, but she kind of has the same frame that we talked about out that Sierra has as well. Sierra Swanson, don't know how to pronounce her last name. But they're very figure-esque. They're like a smaller figure competitor. So the biggest thing that I see with Alyssa that pops out at me is her shoulders. She's got big shoulders that to me scream more figure than they do bikini. And then when you turn her around to the back, she's nice and tight from the back. She's got nice glutes and things like that. But she's still top heavy from the back. So I think there's a few things that maybe she could play with in order to fix that. Like, she's filled out, so her hamstrings aren't quite tight enough. I would like to see her a little bit tighter from the back. But again, it's a tough balance with her because I know she's come in tighter, and I'm sure she's gotten the critiques that she needed to come in a little bit fuller and rounder. So this is probably her trying to balance that. But she has a rather thick waistline from the back. So I think if she was to add a little bit more fullness to her hair at the bottom and bring it down maybe another inch and have more of a U shape on her hair, it's close. But I think if she brought it down to more of a U shape on her hair in the back, I think that would help to create the illusion of a bigger V taper as far as making her waistline look smaller. I don't think her upper body needs to look bigger. That's not what I'm saying. But I would like to see her waistline from the back have the illusion of being a little bit tinier. So maybe play with that hair a little bit. Maybe bring it down another inch or so. Like I said, to get a deeper U, a deeper V there, that might help with that illusion. Because I still at this point look at her and see a larger upper body than a lower body, and to me that is figure versus bikini. We want to balance you. Want to make sure that your top and your bottom half are in line. She's got a great overall frame. She's very balanced conditioning wise, but her shape in general, she needs to fill out and add some more glutes to her frame, or need to figure out some way to downplay her upper half a little bit, right? But overall, I think this was a really good look for her. Like I said, I've seen her a lot harder than this, and I personally like her a little bit fuller. I like this fuller look on her. I think it's better. I think there's just some tweaks that can be made to kind of fill out her glutes a little bit, maybe correct her posing a little to try and make that balance a little bit better. Maybe take the feet apart a little bit in that front pose. The way she has that stance in the front pose, and makes her look, again, very top heavy. So maybe just open those feet up a little bit. That might help to balance her a little bit better. Little things like that. Little things she can try to balance that physique out. Maybe pull herself up a couple of spots from there. So that would be my critique for her. Overall, pretty look though. Really pretty color suit, pretty hair, pretty makeup, all of that. So very pretty look. I like this look on her. Okay, so we're going to pull up Eli next. This was not Eli's best look. However, I can see what they were trying to do. They were trying to fill her out on the lower half, because that's been, the thing that's been kind of holding her back this year. Her legs have been a little bit lacking, but in the process of filling her out, I think they lost the waistline. A little bit of water on that lower back. When you pull up her front shots, you can see there's a little bubble of water over the top of her connector right there. So I get what was trying to happen here. And actually from the back, I do think she was improved. I think from the back, she was improved, but at the expense of that tight, tiny little waistline. So while this wasn't the best look for her, at least they tried something. At least they tried to fill her back out. And this is always the risk. Whenever you try to fill a competitor out, there's always the possibility of spilling over, going overboard, doing too much, that kind of thing. So I think that's kind of where we are at with this. But again, when I look at her back shots, I do think this is probably the best back shot I've seen on her all year. Her glutes look nice and full. Her legs started to pull up a little bit too. So I do think that was the right choice in that regard. She's got some nice pop to her glutes and things like that. She's nice and conditioned from the back. Just got to figure out a way to balance that without losing the waistline, right? So yeah, it's always like I tell you guys all the time. Take data. Every time you go into one of these shows, you gotta write down data. Figure out what worked and what didn't. I think this was a win from the back. I think from the front is where it kind of fell flat. So yeah, next time just gotta figure it out a little bit better than this one. So that was Eli. Let's go up to Shelby. So let me see with Shelby. This was probably the prettiest I've seen Shelby look. I really liked her look at this show, like her hair and makeup. There's just something about it that really popped for me. It just looked, I don't know, it just looked pretty in comparison. I'm not saying her other looks were bad, but this was just better. I don't know why, but it was better. Maybe it was the red lips. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know. She had a little bit more pigment on her lips, a little bit more pigment on her eyes. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But I just like this look. Let's see. From the back, she had some, excuse me, she had some really good pop here. She was nice and tight. Let me see. She could be a little bit tighter through the hamstrings. Again, it's a hard balance. When you're trying to get that pop to the glutes and keep the hamstrings tight, it's a hard thing to do. So I think she was close, but I think she was a little bit too loose on those hamstrings from the back. But glutes look really good. Really, really good. Let me look at the front pose here really quickly. Waistline's tight. Oh, I remember, yeah. So one of the things too is I felt like she kind of lost a little bit of her shoulders here. Maybe needed to fill out the shoulders a little bit, maybe pump up the shoulders a little, maybe. But that's one of the things I noticed is that her shoulders kind of looked like they were lacking a little. I think if she could pump those shoulders up a little, that would really help with her again, talking about balance, the overall balance. So maybe take some shoulders from Alyssa and put them on her. You know, if we could only exchange body parts, right? So I think just a little bit more shoulders in the front would help her V that waistline in a little bit better for her too. I think that would be helpful. So maybe that would be my critique for this, and you know, come in a little bit tighter from behind. Let's see, but yeah, overall I liked this. I thought this look was really pretty on her. I don't know what it was about it, but I really liked it. Let's see, and third we have Jimmy. So I was very impressed with Jimmy at this show. I liked the look. She went a little bit softer with her hair, it looks like. My critique for her from Wasatch was that I felt like her hair color was a little bit too dark. Here it looks like she put in a little bit of highlight, which helped soften her up just enough. You know, sometimes you can't go so drastic and so dark on those colors and things like that. It just is too harsh. I think this was a lot better on her. It could have just been the lighting too, who knows? But I just like the softer brown on her than what she had before. But I miss her lighter hair as well. I liked her lighter hair on her, but however, I do like this better than what she had at Wasatch. I think this was a better look for her. She fixed some posing issues. Some of the things that she did at Wasatch, she was bending over a little bit too much in her front pose. She wasn't doing that here. She stood up nice and tall, which was great. I was really happy to see that. I think just overall, she was just a little bit too soft. You know, when I look at her from the front, I would like to see a little bit more tightness in that waistline. And I felt like her legs look great, but she just needs to be, again, just a hair tighter in order for everything to really flow together well. Because she wasn't tight enough, her waistline looked a little bit thicker when you were looking at her next to the top three. Personally, I actually liked her look the best. I know, like I said, she seemed to be a little bit soft, conditioning wise, but I personally liked it best. When I was watching the live stream, I was watching that top three through the comparisons, I just couldn't take my eyes off of her. I liked her frame, I liked her look, I liked her overall, just everything. So in my opinion, now I know she came in third, but in my opinion, I liked her for first place. And again, I know she was a little soft, so I understand that's why she wasn't in that first place spot. I get that. And just a touch tighter, I think would have put her over the edge. Yeah, I liked this a lot. I think it's just a matter of time for her. If she just dials it in just a touch tighter. You know, like I said, she fixed a couple of those posing things. Again, I liked the lighter brown hair on her too. So just come in a touch tighter all over the place, not just one area, just a touch tighter all over. And I think that would really make her whole frame just pop a little bit. But when you see her alone, she looks fantastic. When you see her with the rest of the top three, you can see where she's a little bit softer than they are. So her waistline ends up looking a little bit thicker. Her legs end up looking a little bit thicker just because she's a little bit on the softer side. But again, if I had my personal preference, she would have won this. That's my 2 cents. But I understand why. I understand why she was in third. Let's go on to second. So second was Corey. And she did phenomenal. Obviously, this was her pro debut. So the fact that she was in second place, and she actually only lost this by 1 point. She lost this show by 1 point to Ashley. So this was not like a huge failure by any stretch of the imagination. It was a huge success for her. Coming out on the stage and making her pro debut like this is fantastic. So there was a couple of things that when I was watching the live stream, I couldn't tell if it was the angle of the camera from the live stream or if it was her. Now that I've seen pictures and now that I've seen the comparison pictures and things like that, I realize it's her. She's a little unbalanced from the back. And all of that comes down to her posing from the front. She also kind of over-posed in her back pose as well. She was kind of bending into it a little bit too much through the knees, squatting a little in her back pose, and that doesn't really help. For those of you ladies that work with me with posing and things like that, I tell you all the time, you need to have a little bit of softness in your knees, but not so much that it looks like you're squatting. What girls think is that pulls the hamstrings tighter. It does, but it also flattens the glutes out, right? You got to stand up a little taller in order to get that full roundness in the glutes to really pop. She's also kind of leaning off to the left side a little bit in her back pose, and that's because from the front, she poses on her left side. So you ladies know, if you work with me, I tell you to pose on both sides in the front, because this is what happens when you don't pose on both sides. You end up being a little cockeyed. If you're always squishing on that left side in your front pose, how she is posing in her front pose, when you turn to the back, you're still going to be squished like that. You're going to have that tightness in your lower back. So that's where I see that right there. It was really noticeable on the live stream because the angle of the camera, they were off to one side of the head judge. So again, I wasn't sure if that was really the way she looked or if it was just the angle of the camera. And it was actually the way she looks. So that's also something to keep in mind for when you are specifically competing too. So this is the reason why, like if you think about it this way, and again, go watch this live stream, it's up on the Fitbody Fusion Insta TV. And you'll see, because of the angle of the camera, her left glute looks so much bigger than her right because of that angle. So think about that. Let's just, for example, let's just say that the Fitbody Fusion camera is your head judge and you were just posed straight out to the audience. The head judge is seeing your left glute being way bigger than your right. You've got to turn in towards the head judge. This is not the scenario here with her. She was fine on stage, but I'm just saying, like, in your perspective, think about this for your benefit. You always want to turn in towards the head judge so they see you straight on and they see a full clear view of you and don't see you twisted, right? This happened to me. My I can't pronounce that, but the scrollioic joint was way off. Blessed for body work and posing. Yes, absolutely. I preach this all the time because it's true. You know, I have the same issue. And I've mentioned this on live streams before. I always posed on my right side. So my right side was always crunched. So when I would go to train in the gym, it was actually really difficult for me to activate my right glute. I can hit my left glute, no problem, because I'm not posing on my left side. But when I pose on my right side all the time, this is all crunched. So that cuts off the signals in your nervous system to be able to actually activate your glutes. So what happens is you end up building an imbalanced physique over time, but also when you're on stage, if you're constantly posing like that, you're not allowing yourself to release on that side. So you're right, body work can really help with that. I always use this analogy of when you go into the gym, you wouldn't go into the gym and just train one glute, right? You train them both. So why is it that way with posing? Train both sides. That's not to say you have to put your weak side on stage. You never have to put your weak side on stage if you don't want to. But it's just a matter of training it so that you are building a balanced physique for when you get on stage. So for me, that really was noticeable. Was that what cost her the win? Maybe, I don't know. But you know, when you kind of click through her pictures of her settling into her back pose, what I want you to notice is before she actually gets into her back pose, her glutes look fuller than when she's in it. And the reason why is because she's squatting into her back pose when she actually gets into her back pose. So like if you go to the second page of pictures on NPCNewsOnline, she's starting to transition into her back pose. And if you just click through those back pose shots, before she settles into it, her glutes look fuller than when she actually settles in, right? Yes, her hamstrings pull tight. I get why they thought that was the right look, but in reality, it's not. In reality, she just needs to kind of stand up a little bit more through her knees and allow her glutes to really pop and look full. So to me, maybe that was the reason why she ended up in second place. But honestly, this was a 1 point difference. So it could have been a number of different things. The other thing that I noticed from the front is she is really well balanced from top to bottom, which I think is fantastic. Like her lat spread into her glute lat spread into her shoulder and her glutes, really well balanced, but she's very, very tight through that midsection. I'd almost like to see her like a touch fuller through that midsection. I think she's a little over conditioned. Like we talked about with Jimmy being a little bit under, I think she might be a little bit over. Not much. She just needs a little bit. Like it's almost too hard through there because the rest of her looks nice and full, and then her waistline looks almost grainy because she's so tight, right? So I don't know. Maybe that might be able to be fixed by a little bit of a posing thing, or maybe just a little bit more filling out, just a touch. I don't know. I'm really picking at hairs right now, right? Trying to figure out why she was in second versus first. But I think these are these little things that really made this a very split decision between her and Ashley, and it just kind of worked out in Ashley's favor in this scenario. But again, going back to the concept of this was a fantastic pro debut, fantastic pro debut. I would also say her makeup was probably a little too light. That was one thing that really stood out to me as well. Her body was super dark and her makeup was really light. So maybe a couple shades darker on the makeup. I like the dark tan. I wouldn't change the tan color. I would just do the makeup a little bit darker so it doesn't look quite so contrasty. That's another thing too. But the rest of the look looks great. So I think it's really just teeny tiny adjustments for her. Nothing huge, nothing crazy. Just maybe stand up a little bit in that back pose to really show the fullness of the glutes, and maybe just try and get a little bit fuller through the waistline. I know I hate saying that sounds bad. Like I don't want you to get fuller through the waistline. You know what I mean? Like everybody wants a tiny little waist, right? But she could use a little bit of something so she doesn't look quite so grainy through there. Right. So that's my critiques for her. But again, fantastic pro debut. Like you really couldn't ask for more than that. Coming 1 point away from beating a 3-time Miss Olympia. I mean, yeah, that's not a bad way to start your career. I'm just saying. And then going to Ashley. So with Ashley, Ashley looked like Ashley. I'll be honest with you. I don't think this was her best look. I feel like her legs are getting a little thin. Glutes looked okay, but again, I don't think they were completely fully back to where they were before. I think they were better than they were her last show. She did. She looked great. She looked fantastic. I don't think this was the best Ashley that we've seen this year. When I look at her back pose, again, I think she needs to fill those glutes back out a little bit more. Her glutes are still phenomenal, regardless. Her glutes are going to be phenomenal, regardless if she's an inch bigger or an inch smaller, they're still going to be phenomenal. But I just don't see them back to where they were at the beginning of the season, right? So there's that. And then also from the back, I felt like she looked really thin up on the top of her upper half on her body, her arms. She looked, when you see her next to the other three, she was kind of chicken winging her arms out. She needs to bring the arms in. Needs to bring those elbows in. Not all the way, but bring them in a little bit so they don't stick way out. So what happens when they stick way out is it actually thins the arms down and we don't see the shoulders or anything like that either. So we miss that X-frame. So I'd like to see her elbows come in a little bit. Let's see. Let me close that. From the front. Yeah, from the front is really where I noticed that her legs are getting a little bit thin, right? This is what happens. This is what happens when you compete consistently. And she's even mentioned it too, that she lost her glutes and stuff the last couple of shows and stuff like that. So just need to pump the volume back up. Right here. You know, waistline was nice and tight, all of that. There were little things, again, I'm going to critique little things here that were distracting to me. The green nails were distracting to me. Not sure why she chose to do that. Your nails, things like that, your nails, your makeup, your hair, all that stuff should not be something that we look at. You know what I mean? It should be something that complements the whole physique. They just stuck out to me. I was like, why she got green nails on, you know? So just go neutral with the nails so it doesn't stand out. Same thing with the eye makeup. I thought the eye makeup was a little over the top too. When you got that bold lip, she does the bold red lip, which works for her. Typically I'm like, don't do the red lip, but the red lip works for her. You gotta tone down that eye makeup. The eye makeup was really bold. And again, it was distracting to me. So these little things were what stuck out to me at this particular show with her. What else? There was something else I was going to mention about that. I don't remember what it was. Hang on, I got some comments here. She's a great champion. Kind of wish she would just rest. Yeah, I wish she would rest too, but you know what? I can't tell you what her plan is. You know, she's got her own goals, so she's got to go after her own goals too. My thought process would be, let's rest till the Olympia so that you have a shot at getting up into that top 5 again. You know, that's where I think she wants to be. So that would be my thought. But again, it's her journey. So she's going to do what she's going to do. You know, she's going to compete where she wants to compete, and she's more than welcome to do that. So yes, the green nails, right? Yeah. I feel like she needs to rest as well and give it all she can to win her title back for the Olympia if possible. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that as well. I agree with that assessment. I do. But again, it's not me. It's her. It's her journey. So she's got to take the journey that she feels is the best for her. And if this is it, this is it. You know what I mean? So I know she's planning on competing more. You know, I would wish that she would kind of step off so that she could go build those glutes back up, build those legs back up, and maybe shock some people at the Olympia, you know? But hey, it's just my opinion, and it's just your opinion, you know? She's walking in her shoes, so she's got to take her competitive journey the way she wants to take it, and it is what it is, you know? So I know, what is she doing next? She's doing Patriots Pro next. I think she's doing Patriots next. So, yeah, I mean, good luck to her. I mean, like I told you guys before, it's really hard to beat her from the back, but if she keeps losing glutes, it's going to get easier and easier to beat her from the back. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. She'll be competing in Atlanta this weekend too. Oh, really? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay. Did the pro list come out yet? I haven't looked. Honestly, I haven't had a chance to look today, so I don't know if it came out or not. She wants her legacy to be a legend. Yeah, I understand that she wants to be a legend, but she already is. I mean, she's the only one out there that's won the Olympia 3 times. I mean, it's not going anywhere. And, you know, Angelica's won it twice, and now Angelica's pregnant, so she's not coming back. So I'm just saying, you know, go cement that. Get off stage, get really your best possible look to come back for the Olympia, and maybe try to go for 4 times at the Olympia. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to catch up to her in show wins. She's got that. She's got that in the bag. Nobody's even close. Right? So at this point, I mean, that would be my strategy. Get off stage and come back and try to win that title back at the Olympia. You know? Yes, it's out. Oh, okay. I mean, like I said, I haven't even had a chance to look today. So, and like I typically do, I wait a couple of days for them to update the whole list, and then we'll do a BSPN. So we'll probably do a BSPN preview of that on Wednesday, right? Agree. Yeah, win the damn Olympia, right? Exactly. Yep. I mean, that would be my choice as well. But this is what she wants to do. Then more power to her. You know what I mean? Like, you do you, boo, right? Like, I can't judge you. I can't say, no, don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm not in your shoes, right? So, like I've said all the time, I can give you my opinion, but my opinion in $3 will get you a cup of Starbucks coffee. So, it is what it is, right? Hey, I got my opinion on things, but that doesn't mean everybody has to agree with me, right? That doesn't mean that I'm right. It doesn't mean that everybody has to agree with me. So, you know, take what I have to say and do you. Like I said, do you, boo, right? Do whatever your thing is, right? So, at the end of the day, like I said, I mean, this was, I wanted to talk about the judging. So before I go past this. So, one of the things I hear a lot about, I'm going to pull this back up so I can pull these comparison pictures back up. So one thing I hear a lot about when girls go to sign up for shows is, well, so-and-so's the head judge. They don't like me. I'm not going to do well there. Or so-and-so's the head judge. They like my look. I'm going to go do that show. You know, I hear that a lot. I say a lot on Starbucks now that I work from home. Yeah, right? Seriously. So what I wanted to mention about this is, while the head judge is important, they only control the outcome of a show to a certain extent. If you watched the live stream of this particular show, this Mile High contest, again, go back on Fitbody Fusion and watch it again. The girl in that top 3 that spent the least amount of time in that center spot was Ashley. The girl that spent the most amount of time in that center spot was Corey. Corey was in that center spot the majority of the time, right? So go back and watch that first call out and watch the confirmation round for that particular call out too. And you'll see Tamer was the head judge at this show. You'll see that Tamer put Corey into that middle spot the most. when he called people out for the final confirmation, he called people in the opposite order for that top 16 or whatever it was. So if you notice, like each girl was placed, like if he called your name first, you were actually lower on the list, right? So for the top 3, he called Ashley first, then Jimmy, then Corey, right? So in my mind, and I could be wrong on this, I believe that the head judge at the show, Tamer, actually had Corey in first, right? So while the head judge has power, they don't have the ultimate power. There is a full panel of judges there. So just because the head judge likes you or doesn't like you will not determine your placing. I see it all the time, and I hear it all the time. Girls are like, well, I think this judge likes bigger girls, so I'm going to go here. Or I think this judge likes smaller girls, so I'm going to go there. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because not one judge on that panel makes the final decision. They all vote, right? And actually, the head judge is a non-scoring judge. And the top scores and the bottom scores all get thrown out. And then the rest of them are all averaged together. So my point in saying all of that is, if you've noticed from what we do on these BSPNs every week, it's pretty consistent across the board who's in that first call out and why they're there. Nobody really has a problem with anybody that's in that first call out. Like, that those are the girls that are supposed to be in that first call out, right? Those are the top girls that are going to place. Those are your top 5, top 6 girls. And regardless of who the judge is, that's right every time. You see it. I get 80% of the first call out right before we even go into the show because of the look. We talked about this before, the look, the criteria that they're looking for. What matters that day is the sum of all of the judges. So that head judge does not determine who wins that show. It's the sum of all the judges on the panel, right? And you'll really see that in this particular show if you go back and you watch that Instagram live feed that I mentioned. It's up on the Insta TV on Fitbody Fusion. I did check that before I came on. It is up there, so you can go watch the whole thing. And just so that gets out of your head that you really have to rely on the head judge liking you, right? Because it's not true. It's not true. If you fit the criteria, you're going to end up in the first call out. And then it's the sum of all of the judges on that panel that pick the winners. So even though, in my opinion, and again, I don't know if this is the case or not, in my opinion, I don't think Tamer had Ashley winning. I think he had Corey winning. But that's not how it played out. That's not how it played out. So again, the head judge does not have the ultimate say. Okay, so stop getting that into your head. I hear that a lot. So get that out of your head. Just bring your best possible look, bring your best possible package to the stage that fits the criteria that day it's going to be a matter of how you look against everybody else, against the entire judging panel, not one judge, not one single judge. Okay? Does it make sense? Now, the last thing I wanted to mention about this judging too is they did a different kind of format at this particular show. So at this particular show, what they did is they came out and they did their front, back, front, and then they did comparisons and call-outs, and then they did individuals, and then they did confirmation round and handed out awards. So there was no break. It went straight through, right? So going back to the format of this particular show, this is the first time I've seen them do this for pros, where again, they came out, did front, back, front, then they started call outs, then they did individuals, and then they did finals and just went straight into finals, did confirmation round and awards. I think there's pluses and minuses to that. Personally, as a competitor, I don't like that format because I would rather have the opportunity to get off stage between prejudging and finals and go make adjustments, especially if you're really close potentially to win the show. Then you have the opportunity to go and change a few things, especially if your coach is there in the audience or something. Then you have the opportunity to go and maybe come in a little bit tighter at finals or something like that. And then the placings could change, like we saw happen in Milwaukee. That's the full show. You give the opportunity to actually change from morning to night. Either direction. You may change badly, and lose it, but, so for me, I personally like the morning evening, format as a competitor. Now, as somebody who is a posing coach and does hair and makeup and things like that at shows, I like the all-in-one format. Because then, you know, specifically when the girls are in the afternoon, I don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to start hair and makeup. So I prefer the girls in the afternoon. I like that aspect of it. But if I was a competitor, I would prefer to have the morning and evening format, just because, again, you can collect data. Like I talked about in Milwaukee when Lexus and Sierra changed their suits. That's an opportunity to collect data and to get better for your next show. You know, I, as a competitor, the competitor in me wants that opportunity. Go back to all of this. I don't know if the format that they did at Mile High is better or not. Personally, again, depending on who I am that day, if I'm the competitor, no. If I'm the coach, yes. So, like, I don't know, whatever you think is best for you. So there's pluses and minuses for both, right? So, but anyway, across the board, like, you know, as far as this top 3 is concerned, I understand why it fell the way that it did. But like I said, I personally had Jimmy in first just because I like her look the best. But I do understand she was a little bit too soft, so I understand that. Needs to come in a little bit tighter. But I think if she was a little bit tighter, I think this would have been hers hands down. So that's my 2 cents. But it did pretty good on the predictions, except for that pro debut worked her way in there, which I think is awesome. I love seeing that happen. I love seeing the pro debuts come out. So that was great. Oh, and what I haven't mentioned yet, I forgot the whole time, is the Sizzling Summer Suit Sale. It's still open for registration right now. So it's open until the 15th to register for the VIP access list. So if you haven't done that yet, the link is in my bio to do that. So click on it. It's free. Just enter your email. That registers you for the Sizzling Summer Suit Sale access. This is the best deal that you will get all year. It includes your suit, your posing, your tanning, your jewelry, everything that you need for your presentation aspect of the sport. Right from yours truly. Yes. So, yeah. Other than that, I'm going to let you guys go for tonight and sign up for the Sizzling Summer Suit Sale. And if you want to talk to me, work with me, suitsandposing.com is where you got to go. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys tonight. I hope you had a fantastic weekend and have a great week coming up. But thank you for joining me for BSPN, and we'll be back on Wednesday. We'll see you right back here on Wednesday, all right? Good night, you guys.